Hello and welcome to Sensei podcast. This is Manos Brilakis discussing with leaders in the field of CTO and complex PCI. Sensei means teacher or master in Japanese. The goal of the Sensei podcast is to help you learn and improve in CTO and complex PCI so that you can become the best that you can be and offer your patients the best possible results. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sensei Podcast. It is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Anja Oksnes, who is from Bergen, Norway, and one of the, fortunately, growing number of women who are doing phenomenal work and leading the field of CTO intervention. So, Anja, welcome again. It's exciting to have you on board next to the fireplace and discuss to you about your learning trip in CTO PCI.
Thank you so much, Manos, for having me. I'm excited. This is fun.
So, Anja, can you go over with us, how was your learning trip? How did you go to learn these procedures, which are very complex? And I know as you say, you're in a smaller city in Norway, but you've been working on this for many years. How did the passion start and how did you learn?
So I actually started out a little bit odd by being an interventionalist at all. I was a GP. At first, I had kids very early. I had my son during med school and I had my daughter just as I came out of med school in my internship. So when I was done, it was busy and studying cardiology was a little bit heavy, even though that's always what I wanted. So I was offered a job as a GP and I did that for a few years. And then I wanted back to back to cardiology. And at some point, just very shortly into my training, actually, they were kind of short of interventionalists at my hospital. So they approached me, say, we think you're the type to do this. Would you like to try it out? And I fell immediately in love with the lab. So very quickly loved to do the procedures and that kind of job. So, and I've always liked to push hard to know everything. I'd like to know everything at once. I always wanted to do difficult procedures and to learn everything. So I quite early got an interest for CTO PCI, going to congresses and seeing these technical challenging procedures. So took it home and started actually. I'm kind of self-trained in CTO PCI. Yeah.
So you went to the meetings and you saw some people. And then you started doing the procedures in the lab. And did you have other people who helped you? Did you go through books? Did you look at meetings, the videos? How did you actually learn the actual steps of the procedure?
So there was one person who did CTOs quite early at our place, but he started doing something else, went to industry. As I started having the interest to do CTO PCI, and then there's one other colleague who was kind of starting the same process, but I've actually always done CTOs on my own. So I would inhale anything that I could see in meetings, and I was lucky to go to CTO meetings. Especially the Actos meeting in Amsterdam. And I started out doing some, basic procedures and then increasing the volume and the difficulty, level of the CTOs. But actually, most of it is learning by doing.
Perfect. And then which things did you find the most difficult things to learn? Was it the wires? Was it the microcatheters, the angiogram? What did you find the most difficult when you were learning to do the procedures?
It's something about knowing everything that's out there, all the equipment that you need to learn and the different properties of wires and all that. But I think actually the most difficult step was to take the step to do retrograde, to do the first retrograde case, not having done that before. But I haven't really been afraid to do anything. I've always felt that I've been on the safe side. And as I got into that, having started a little bit with ADR, I had met Tony DeMartini at a meeting, and I also met some of the people in the UK, which has been a big inspiration to me. James Pratt and Julian and Margaret, of course. So I had Tony over and I had Julian over to teach me to use crossbows and do ADR. And it's also always a huge inspiration to have other people come and teach you. And as I kind of had some volume and I did pretty much everything, I felt that I needed to go out to step up my skills, and also to kind of see where I was, to have someone evaluate my work. So I got in touch with Bill Lombardi in Seattle. This is I think it's 4 years ago. And he invited me to come and work with him. So I went to him twice, 2 falls in a row, stayed for a week and did cases together. And you know how he is. He really pushed my mind, and he pushed my skills, and he made me believe in what I was doing, so I could go home and get even better. And then I met, Margaret invited me to do a live case with her for TCT 3.5 years ago. And after that, we did a lot of cases together, flying across the Atlantic, and that also really helped me improve my work, I think.
Absolutely. So you started by yourself, but then you had some feedback. You worked with other people, and that helped, push to the next level. So what do you think should be the characteristic of a mentor or a teacher, like people who want to learn this? What did you advise them to look for if they want to start the process? Because obviously learning with someone makes it a little easier than trying to do it all by yourself.
And also, it's hard work to do it by yourself and also do cases by yourself. And I'm not sure if I want to advise it, but so I would say the work that I've done over the last few years with a mentor, it's not only to have them in your lab to discuss the cases as you go, but it's also having someone that you can send cases to, on any platform, Dropbox or whatever, go through cases, come up with a strategy, make sure that your thinking is in line with what they're thinking, how you should approach the cases and all that. I think that's a very good learning point. I've been so lucky to be a part of Climb, firstly as faculty, and the last year I was director of the CTO track. And I think that's also early in their career, especially for women, of course, since this is a initiative from Women as One. I think that's a good way to get in touch with other people and to learn the basics. And I think it's very important to go to meetings. I've always learned a lot just from anything from the basic talks to look at live cases.
And how do you prepare for a case now? Is your preparation different than it was a few years back? Are you more relaxed, or are you still stressed? How do you prepare for the cases?
So I'm absolutely more relaxed, but I think I might prepare more now because I know how important that is. So I'll usually, the last thing I'll do before, so my CTO's days are typically Tuesday and Thursday. So what I'll do on Friday before I go home, I'll always look up the cases for next week. And I'll go through them, not very deeply, but I'll go through them. I'll check what kind of patients it is, if they're old, young, if they've got heart failure, all this. And then I'll look at the angios. And then that will kind of play in my mind over the weekend and over the days ahead. And then the day before, I will always go really thoroughly through the angios, and I will make up a plan 1, 2, 3, my strategy on how to do the case. And then on the day of the CTO, that's when I decide how much I will push, And there's always a risk benefit to what you do, how frail the patient is, what you have to gain, the territory, the ischemia, all that. So that I will usually do the day of the case.
And then, so you sleep over the cases. You get a sense, you sleep over them, you kind of process them subconsciously until you actually get to do them. And then in the actual day of the procedure, is there any special routine that you have, apart from looking at the film, talking to the patient, anything special, or you just go on it and you work the best you can?
No, not in particular. So what I do now, I found that since I don't have, I'm working alone like a solo operator. So any fellows who want to come to Norway, welcome. So what I do, I always involve the team. So I will always go in and I will drop the case on the board, and I will tell the nurses what I intend to do, if there's any potential risk, and try to involve them in the process. Because I think that's quite important. I think it's particularly important when you're about to deal with complications. It's important for them to know what's going on and what you're doing. And then I will think about equipment. I will get my CDO card out and kind of prep, but I don't have any specific things that I'm doing, no dance or anything like that.
And have you trained your cath lab, the techs and the nurses? Have you trained them? Did they learn with you how to participate in these cases and get them done in a safe way?
Yeah, so I've been having some lectures for the nurses. I could probably have done more, but I've had some lectures for them in a group. So, and kind of trying to make it low key so they can ask any questions. Try to teach them the different equipment, what it's all used for, and why certain things are more dangerous than others. If I'm going into a epicardial, I'll always let them know. So I think trying to make it a teamwork.
And how do you deal with the complications and the failures? Is there a specific routine? How do you let them not deter you and learn from them?
Of course, we're all afraid of complications, but I think for some reason, when I get in a situation where I have a complication, I always get very calm. I don't get stressed. I think that's not a good thing to do. And I try to tell everybody around me what step 1, 2, 3, 4, what they should all do in this situation, and get control over the situation. And thankfully, usually, even though you have a complication, it turns out well. But I will always play a complication over and over. It will stay with me for quite a while. I will go through it and I will try to learn from it. Is there anything I should have done different? Anything I did that I shouldn't have done? And I try to learn from the situation. And make sure that I don't do anything twice that I could have avoided. But sometimes it's not. You have to be prepared for complications if you're going to do this. It's not avoidable. But I don't think we should accept complications at all. I think we should go for to try to not have complications, but you have to be prepared that there will be some.
Wonderful. And then are there some cases, good or bad, that you remember that taught you a lot of things about how do you practice now, that have influenced the way you practice?
Yeah, so I actually recently had a case where I did an ad hoc CTO in the evening, which I know is not a good idea. And that I know I shouldn't do. I mean, we have data on that, and we know that I already had done CDOs that day, and I was on call, and we got this in STEMI, and I thought, well, the best thing here is not to do, it was a post-CABG patient, and the best thing would be to open the native and leave the vein graft. But I did that after a long day. It wasn't planned. And of course, the guy had a late tamponade later in the ward. It was a really complex case, and I shouldn't have done it, and I knew that I shouldn't have done it, and things like that is, the patient did well, but so I'm never going to do that again. Never do non-planned CTO, complex CTOs. It's not smart.
And you're right that these cases can be challenging. They can take a lot of toll on you. And how do you keep fit and able to do these long cases over a long day or multiple cases?
So I've always liked to work out, and I live in Bergen, and we have it's the city of the 7 mountains, so we have a lot of mountains here. So I love to hike or run in the mountains, and I'm a biker. I love my road bike. So I actually bike all year long to work, but in the summer and spring I will go for long bike rides. I love that. And of course in the winter I love to ski. I love to go over the plateaus, pulling a sled, tenting outside. And for me the exercise is both for my physical but also for my mental health. So I need to push hard, so I work out hard, and that's how I kind of get my endorphins, and I'll also get my mental strength, I think. Yeah.
So do you ride your bike for STEMIs?
Yeah, well, not now, because now I moved so far away, but I used to have like 7 kilometers to work, and I would ride my bike for STEMIs, but now I have 17, so that's a little bit too long, a little bit too far. So.
Okay. But clearly that has helped you to stay fit and be able to do these complex procedures. Any other things that you do mentally to organize? Do you kind of think, meditate, or read some books? What do you do to keep you mentally centered and fresh?
I know there's a lot of CTO operators that do yoga and meditate and all that. I've never done that. Nature is a really nice thing for me. So I live by the ocean, and I will sometimes go and sit by the ocean, look at the waves, listen to the waves. Maybe that is meditation. I like to listen to audiobooks. I think that's also a very good way of relaxing and turn off. So that's good. I, of course, have my family, and I have a dog. Right now I've got 9 puppies, so spending time with them and turning off work for a while is good.
Do you have a favorite book and a favorite movie?
Not really. So I would never read a book twice. I don't do that. I like crime. I can read novels. But I don't think I have like this amazing one favorite. To be honest, I don't watch a lot of TV. I keep busy. I actually, yeah. So no, I don't think I can pick any in particular.
And then for the people that come to your hospital, that you train them in PCI or general, what are the things that you look for in them? Do you think their hand skills, their coordination, their curiosity? What actually are the things that you look for in someone? As you mentioned, you're recruiting for a complex fellow. What are the things that you would look for them to be willing and excited to teach them?
So I think in all that we do, I mean, we need to be, of course, you need to have some technical skills, I think, to become a complex PCI or CTO operator. But I think the first thing with a person coming in wanting to train is the excitement and the engagement in what we do, and the will and the ability to work hard, because I think that's very important. If you're going to be excellent, which I think we have to be, you have to be excellent if you're going to do this. And then you really need to put down a lot of work. It's like becoming a super athlete or good in what you do. You really need to put down a lot of work. So I'm looking for someone who is excited and interested in what they're doing, willing to work hard. They need to have some skills to start out with, and also be good with patients. I think it's very important that they engage with the patients in a good way, because even though to do these things that we do, it's dangerous, and you have to be. So I'm not afraid to do CTOs, but you should always be a little bit nervous and a little bit afraid, because you don't want to harm the person that's in front of you. So if you're not afraid when you start out of having complications or then I don't think that's the place for you. So what's the English word? You have to be, I'll find it.
Cautious, or I guess respectful to the patient.
The word, the respectful. You have to have a big respect for what you do and a big respect for your patients. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. And that's one of the worst things if you have a complication, but that's why the communication before is critical, and obviously striving for the best that we can do. What are the things, Anja, that you're most proud of? You've done a lot of things, but what are the things that you're most proud of professionally and personally?
It's always hard to brag. So I think I'm actually, personally, I am quite proud that I was able to. So I have two grown-up kids, right? I have, my daughter is almost 20 and my boy is 22. And I managed to raise two wonderful kids, even though I worked so much and worked hard. I managed to be there for them, I think. So they are good people. Yeah, so I'm proud of that. Professionally, I am a little bit proud of that. I've managed that I've come where I am. That I managed to always push, and have the I guess the skills or abilities or that I have, with the possibilities that I've given. I think I've taken any opportunity that I've had to get as good as I can. I've always pushed hard to be as good as I can for the best of my patients. So I think I'm quite proud of that.
Yeah, and obviously you've done a phenomenal work and create a lot of opportunities for the patients locally, because as you say, this is hard to find this skill in many places, not just in Norway, but around the world as well. And is there a lot of coronary disease in Norway? Is it a lot of CTOs that you see, or is it less common?
I think compared to maybe the US, I don't think we see the same severity. But of course, people are getting older, and I think the disease that we see are a lot of calcium. It's complex, and more and more post-CABG people are getting older, and I think now all the post-TAVR PCI is getting challenging. We have a long waiting list for regular PCI and for CTO PCI, but it's been quite steady over the last few years. So I think it's more as we are able to do more, the population also increases. So we do things today that we didn't do some years back. So yeah, but I don't think Norwegians aren't the worst, but we're also getting heavier, and it's getting more disease here as well.
And then Anja, you were seeing more and more women. As you know, this field a few years back there were very few women, but now yourself, you're one of the people who've really mastered the field and moving the field forward and serving as role models for other women as well. And the Climbers one that you've led last year is also another example. So if you had some advice specific for women, the women who want to do complex PCI, since you've been there, done that, what would you advise them?
So I think it's important that you dare to stick your head out and say that you want to do this, and I think. So what I've seen I've had nice colleagues and all that, but when I started out, I was the only female in Norway actually doing intervention at all. And even though you're one of the group, things happen beside you. They're out having a beer, or it's the guys' club or something like that. And I think it's important for us as women to try to have some friend or mentor or colleague to support us, or work together as a group. And I think initiatives as Climb, and there's many of those, are good to kind of give you the support you need to take the step forward. But PCI, CTO, PCI, complex chip, it's fun, and I think you should pursue it if you think it's fun. Just be brave and contact people like me or any of the other women who are doing this, and will help you to get started.
And I think it's been an incredibly well-knit group, and I think that helps a lot to getting more. And I think this year in the Sky Fellows, we did see many more women actually becoming interventional fellows than we had seen before. So clearly, there's a much more surge and much more demand to become an interventionalist amongst women, which is wonderful. Now, when it comes to radiation, are you doing anything specific? I think there's now everyone, men and women actually, are more and more concerned about radiation and those long cases sometimes. Are you doing anything special? How worried are you about radiation?
Probably not worried enough. So I have to admit that I'm not worried, which I should be. But that's kind of who I am. I don't tend to worry, but I try to protect myself. And what we do is, I have all new labs. I'm lucky with the low radiation. I make sure I always have a red pad on top of my patient, because we know that most of the radiation actually comes scattered from the patient. So you need to make the room between your screen. You have to have lead under your screen. You have to have a red pad to protect you from the scattered radiation from the patient. And I try to tell my fellows to take a step back when you see CINA, and use as less CINA and MR-fluoro, STOR-fluoro, things like that. So my dosage have really declined over the years. So even though now I'm doing long and complex cases, I'm very aware of it. And I think also, not only for me, but also for the patient, we need to so people are going through a lab a lot, several times, especially patients like CTO patients. They have chronic coronary disease, and they'll be through it many times. So it's important to at every procedure try to make it as low radiation as possible for them.
Perfect. And then in terms of the live cases, you've done live cases and you do phenomenal work on that. How useful do you see them as an educational tool? And do you think it's worth it? And do you learn from them? What are your thoughts about live cases?
So I think live cases can be actually very, very, be a very good learning. It's maybe just as much about the moderator and the second operator we have to be, when you do a live case, it's about the teaching. It's not about getting the stent in at the end, which is also, of course, very, very good, but it's about good teaching. And I think if you have a good live case, where the teaching is good, there's good discussion between the panel and the operators. I think that's a very good way to teach people how to do CTO PCI. I'm not extremely. I haven't done a lot of live cases. I've done some, and I still think it's quite frightening to do it. I'm quite nervous. But I try to tell myself before I go in there that I have to do my best for the patient, and I have to be remember that this is just about that, doing a good job, and not do anything that you wouldn't do if you weren't at this place, and try to tell the audience how you think and what you're doing to solve the case in the best way.
Perfect. And then just curious, what motivates you? What gets you going up in the morning to come to the lab and work all day and do all these cases and then go home through the snow late at night? So how do you keep your motivation and keep excited about doing this?
So I have to say that, like I told you up front, when I my first day or second day in the lab, I was sold. So, and I'm still like that. I love my job, and I love solving complex cases, and I love actually, I think going on call, having a patient coming that you can really help, but it's still very satisfying to be able to treat people and help people, and I think my job is fun. So of course, I'm also tired in the mornings, but for now, I think what I do is a lot of fun, and I still think that I have a way to go. So I still think I can get better, and I want to learn more and get better. And I think at this point in my career, the way to get better is to teach others. I think that's a very good way of looking at how you do things, is to tell, is to train others. So that's quite motivating. Yeah, so for now it's still fun. So as long as it's fun, I'm gonna keep doing it.
No, this is perfect. And again, it's obvious that whatever you're doing, you really love it and you're enjoying it. And that shows in your case and also the way you talk to people and teach people and do all these activities. So if you had to give the people who are starting now or halfway on their course how to learn to do these procedures, what would you advise them? What would be your top piece of advice for these fellows?
So for one thing, if there's someone in your lab that you can learn from, I mean, being a second operator, be there and talk and discuss is very good to start with, and then having someone with you. I don't think I'll recommend people starting out like I did, doing it on your own, because I think that takes a longer time, and it also at some point you need people to guide you to make the right decisions. So go to meetings. I actually think sometimes it can be good to look at YouTube. Actually, there are some good cases there you can learn from people like Manos and other excellent operators around the world. And reach out to people. Send your cases when you're starting going solo, right? Send your cases to other people and discuss your cases. I think that's also a good idea before you go into the lab, that you have not only your own perspective on things, but you have someone else's perspective as well. And I think that's, at least for me, it's been very, very helpful. And then
also I know that you've... I'm sorry.
No.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That's a great summary, Anja. And also, I know that not only you have been very good at the doing and teaching, but also you've launched your research program as well. You've done some studies. So you're going to tell us more about this and how the inspiration for this came and how it fits with the whole picture?
So it's quite funny. I've always thought of myself as a very hands-on, and since I kind of started a little bit late in life doing PCI, I thought, not sure if I would go into research. But as you go, you see things that could have been done better, or at least we think it could have been done better. So during a few years ago, I've been thinking about CTO PCI, we're all talking about these complications and how we need to accept complications, but as few as possible. But still think we have too many complications, and started thinking about how to do that better. So this was something that me and Margaret came up with as we worked together, flying back and forth between Norway and Scotland and doing cases together. So we come up with an idea of how to hopefully minimize the risk of complications in the most complex CTO cases. And as that idea came up, I've been working hard about developing this study, building an ECRF and getting the whole study organization going. And I have now included 40 patients in the study that's called CTO, Invest CTO study, which is about a planned investment procedure in the most complex CTOs. And I think it's extremely interesting and it's fun. And it's going to be interesting to see how that goes within the next year. So this is a study that goes on in Norway and the UK. So hopefully I can bring something new into the field of CTO PCI, which would be very nice. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a phenomenal area. And a lot of, as you say, this is a great way to potentially reduce complications, make the procedure shorter and more efficient, and also still have patency down the line. And, having one or two procedures is not an issue as long as you don't get the complication, which you could avoid doing the investment in the first time. So again, we're very excited. When are you expecting the study to have results?
So I think we could have some. We're going to have some results within the next 6 months, I think. Of course, I know how things are going, and it's going very well. So I think these patients are like the toughest of the CTOs. We're talking about JCTO 3, 4, 5, post-cabbage. They've been tried before. And it's tough on the patients, it's tough to be on the table for hours. They have high radiation doses and contrast doses. And I think also one of the thoughts that I had with this study was that we shouldn't only look at the procedural outcome, which is TIMI-3 flow. In the CTO, we have to look at the whole patient perspective and how we can make this journey safer and better for the patients. So that's part of the whole idea. So far it's going very well, and so even though these are high complexity, the success rate is above 90% on these patients doing it this way. And the complications rate look favorable. So it's going to be interesting to see the results when they come.
We can't wait. We're very excited to look at this. And I think more and more people are doing investment procedures. And your study will be really critical to better understand how to better do this and what the outcomes are going to be.
Thank you.
So again, Anja, thank you. Thank you again so much for taking the time today. This was an incredible overview. Congratulations on building a premier program in Bergen, doing all the teaching, doing the research. Super excited to learn from you and work with you.
Same to you. So nice to be here with you tonight, Manos. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to the Sensei podcast.